Hello, everyone. Welcome to On the Fringes of Sound. I am Lars Hauer, and today we're talking with Michael of Bipolar Explorer. How you
Hey,
doing today, Michael?
I'm good. How are you, Matt?
I'm doing pretty good. All right, so let's start off with talking about your latest album. So this one definitely seems to be kind of like a continuation, at least in my opinion, from your work of, I'm probably going to murder this name, uh, Duans?
Deux anges,
Duzange.
just French for two angels.
Anyway, so this feels like a good continuation of like Duzange compared to the one that was in between this latest one and Duzange.
Yeah.
Long name.
Yeah.
Forest, Voices, Coastlines,
Dreams.
Dreams.
Yes.
So I noticed that one was a lot of field recording based. It seemed a lot more experimental, whereas this newest album has more in common with Duzange than it does with that one.
Yes.
So would you say that this one is like a continuation of your typical kind of work, or is Forest, Voices, Coastlines, Dreams more akin to what you usually like to do?
I think, well, we certainly like to do the kind of thing that we did with Forests. That is a little bit of a different thing because those were all the recordings that we did for this really cool experimental radio broadcast event that happens annually, and then during the pandemic happened a few extra times, called The Dark Outside. It's run by a really cool guy named Stuart McLean in Scotland, and yeah, and so the remit of that is soliciting work from artists, and a lot of our favorite people have been involved in that, Portishead and Scanner, and a lot of people who do fantastic work. An unreleased track that's never been heard anywhere. It can't be some B-side or on SoundCloud even or anything. And it's a 24-hour broadcast that happens in a forest, often in Galloway Forest in Scotland. And they rent a transmitter, and you have to be within the area of the transmitter to even hear the broadcast at all. During the pandemic, they did it online, but they did it again without archives. So you had to just be listening, to hear the stuff. So we did work for them. We began doing the festival in 2019, and then there were a couple of extra ones during the pandemic. So we took 7 of those tracks that we'd recorded for The Dark Outside and put them out in that album, Forest, Voices, Coastlines, Dreams. That kind of work has appeared on other albums of ours, and I think you'll find things that are like that on both the new album on In the Hours Left Until Dawn and on Duzange. But Forests was specifically that. It was like just those tracks, that kind of work. So that's the difference between that. And then in terms of Duzange and In the Hours Left Until Dawn being somewhat similar, they have a lot of commonalities. They're both double albums. They're both that sort of eclectic blend of experimental music, ambient music, spoken word with guitar underscoring, field recordings enhanced with further instrumentation, and then the more traditional sort of shoegazy guitar and vocal stuff, and put together in a sequence that's meant to be eclectic and almost be like a radio broadcast that you might be hearing in the wee hours of the night. But that also, in terms of it being, our sound, that's something that we've evolved towards. I think we were moving our way toward Duzange, and so Forests in between exclusively the experimental stuff, and then In the Hours Left Until Dawn, kind of a return to that. But that took us a long time to get there. And then the other thing I would say about the differences between Duzange, the 2 double albums, Duzange and In the Hours Left Until Dawn, is thematically, for us, they're kind of about different things a little bit. That may strike the listener just stylistically not as profoundly as it does because of our personal experience. But maybe if you know our work, you'd be like, oh, there's a little wrinkle in that or something. Anyway.
So this kind of sound you hear on Duzange and your latest album. So is that what Bipolar Explorer has typically sounded like throughout the years, or did you guys start out in a different kind of place? Or
it's kind of alluding to that in the last answer, is that it's been a long evolution from a straightforward indie rock band, 2 guitars, bass, but without drums. So I think that was one of the things that distinguished us at the beginning, really finding the rhythm in the guitar effects in delay and tremolo, sort of like these waves that create that. But the kind of music that we listened to became more the kind of music that we started to write. I mean, we haven't abandoned yet that kind of shoegazy guitar vocal stuff. I write songs like that, but because we listen to such an enormous amount of field recordings and experimental music and ambient music, it became part of our bloodstream. So naturally, we started to write that way, and I think you're exactly right. It's kind of an evolution over these last 10 or 11 years. This is our 11th album.
That's quite a discography you got going on.
Oh, thanks, man. Thank you. Because I started out, my previous band as the front man and the rhythm guitarist. And when I started Bipolar Explorer, it was a friend of mine, a really great musician. It was like, you can play guitar, you can play lead guitar. You don't need another guitarist. I mean, you can have one, but these songs, play what you want to play, And sometimes you really need someone to like check in with you and say like, you know what you're doing, just keep going.
So whenever you sit down to like create an album or create a track even, where do you usually like to start? Do you try to start with the guitar, the instruments, organ, or is it usually starting with the vocals? I know with Bipolar Explorer, a lot of your vocals on there are mainly spoken word. So do you ever start with just the spoken word, or does that come after? Sorry, another multi-part question.
No, it's good. No, let's take it apart, man. I think that the vocals aren't mostly. I mean, I would quibble and say that the vocals aren't mostly spoken word. There is spoken word, and it's usually almost always exclusively voiced by Sylvia Solanas, who does spoken word and backing vocals in Bipolar Explorer, and I write for her. I'll compose the spoken word pieces, and then she will voice them and sometimes translate them into French when we do something in French, and then I'll underscore it. So that is the one of the genres that we work in where the words always come first. Everything else, the more traditional sort of shoegazy guitar-driven vocal stuff, is almost always starts out on guitar, and that begins to suggest sounds that become words, and then you begin to get the idea of what the song is about and write the lyrics. But that almost always the chord progressions, the licks, that's what comes first in that. And then in the more instrumental work, that's usually, again, first is deciding that this is not a song that's not going to have lyrics. So if it's on guitar, it's knowing that, and then, tracking that, and then adding further things. And that was something to add to, I think that's different between Dusange and In the Hours, is that I really wanted to find new sounds. And I'm primarily guitarist, but over the last 4 or 5 albums, I've been playing synth and organ. And there were some tracks, I really wanted to base some tracks that were solely began as the primary instrument. And I knew these were going to be instrumental tracks with synth or organ. And so then those went down first, and then the guitar, bass, everything else that came in. If there's percussion or field recordings where we implemented a lot of them, they drop in as we begin to get the feel for that. So they're sort of different approaches to each of those different experimental, spoken word, ambient, and the shoegazy sort of songs. A little bit different in the composing of each of those things, and then occasionally something just comes to you, in your sleep. You're dreaming something, and it comes, almost fully formed, and then you just grab your phone from the nightstand and sing whatever you can remember of it, including the lyrics and the melody, into the phone, and then when you're properly awake with a cup of coffee, pick up a guitar or fire up the keyboard and see what you can find. So I think those are the several different ways that these things sort of come to life.
That's an interesting way of coming up with an idea. Just waking up around like 2 or 3 in the morning, grabbing your phone and just, humming a tune into it, or
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a complete like mystery and coincidence, and that's something that's a transmission that just comes from the other world to you. I think because usually in
Mhm.
these dreams, it's something that I hear in the dream, like on the radio, like a radio is playing, and then I wake up
Right.
and I go, "That's not a song on the radio. That's a song in your head. Can you remember enough of it to actually get it onto your voice memo?" And that happens. There's the album of ours. I mean, it happens, not infrequently, but there's an album of ours called Dream Together, the 2017 album. And a lot of that is like probably a third of that are dream songs. I mean,
Oh
that's where they
wow,
started. It's spooky and really cool.
wow.
Yeah.
I I'm jealous. I wish I could have dreams like that.
Oh, you just have to wake up. That's all. You probably do have the dreams. You got to wake up and remember them, you know?
No, just wake up, Michael. Just wake up.
Wake up, Lars. Wake up.
So you actually write most of the lyrics, if not all of the lyrics for
Yeah.
Bipolar Explorer, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So on that note, it's like I noticed the lineup for Bipolar Explorer has been pretty consistent
Yeah.
over the years.
Yeah.
But I was surprised to learn as I was like reading through your biography,
Yeah.
that Summer, one of the vocalists on there, isn't with us anymore.
That's right. That's right.
So, I mean, is that kind of like a catalyst for you to continue the project after her passing?
Big time.
And also, where is her voice coming from? Is there just an archive of recordings of her?
Yeah, a ton. Yeah. So like tragically, Summer and I formed this iteration of the band in the in the early 2000s, like 2009 or so. And
Okay.
we're working on the album that became Of Love and Loss. And after her, she had a tragic accident and passed away in 2011 at the age of 31. And it was a long time before I could do anything, let alone pick up a guitar. But when I did, I went back to those recordings and then began to write new material that was sort of for and about her for that album, Of Love and Loss, which is another double album. And it wasn't, sequenced chronologically. The mix is of songs written contemporaneous after her passing, along with tracks that were recorded when we were working on what was meant to be a very different album. Right. And then the project just continued very much in, as I say, of, for, and about her. And she, the for and about are easily understandable. But the of is, there's an enormous archive I have of her isolated vocals, both spoken and sung. And so sometimes I'll think of one of those and it'll inspire me to write a new song. And other times I'll be writing a song and I'll be thinking, I hear Summer's voice in this, and I'll look for something and fly it in. So she winds up being on, all of the recordings in both singing and her spoken word as well, because I have this,
Right.
thankfully, this treasure trove of her recordings. Thank goodness for technology, because we were recording ourselves all the time. That I have this huge archive to draw from, and and then in terms of this project continues largely in honor and tribute and just to conjure her, so she feels like she's with us,
It is kind of amazing that you'll sit down to write a new song and you'll think, oh, I hear her voice on this. And you'll be able to go to the archive and there's something there that fits it really well.
Yeah, and Sylvia sings too. So when the three of us are all on a track, together, it just feels so perfectly right. And a lot, in the earlier days of the band, several other bass players, second guitarists, and people came in and out of the ranks of Bipolar Explorer. But I really believe the three of us are the core unit, and we're meant to be this project together, the three of us. Yeah.
So when did Sylvia actually start joining the band? Was she there like from the very beginning, or?
She was not. No, I met Sylvia. We began a side project that then became Bipolar Explorer's sister band, Tremisphere, in late 2017, early 2018. And I was working on our album Till Morning Is Nigh at that time, and I wanted spoken word on it. and I thought it was going to be in English, and I thought I was going to use someone else. And Sylvia was perfect. And I asked her, would she translate all of the spoken word into French, which she did, and then spoke it, and it was gorgeous. And she joined the band with that project, Till Morning Is Nigh, and it's been, intrinsic to the group ever since. And then Tremisphere, we've released, and she's the main songwriter in Tremisphere and the lead vocalist, and then I'm the multi-instrumentalist in that group. And we're working on our third album right now. We've put out 2 albums. Tremisphere has put out 2 albums, and I think 4 singles, 4 or 5. And we're working on our third album right now. Yeah.
So that actually kind of brings me into my my next question. So, you just released this latest album a few months ago.
Last week.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
April 7th.
It's funny because people will send me codes sometimes,
and it's like, yes, we wanted you to have it early.
Yes. So I'll get confused because I'll be scrolling through my collection and it'll have a little tag that says new, right? And I'm just like, oh shoot, they put out a brand new album, and I'll be sitting here listening to it the whole time, not realizing that it's a private link and I'm just listening to it.
Okay.
All right. So you had your latest album come out just last week.
Yeah.
I've obviously been listening to it a little bit longer. Is there already a follow-up album for Bipolar Explorer? I know you mentioned a new album coming from Tremisphere, and that's going to be on Slug Records, which, as I understand, is your label, correct?
It is our label, yeah.
Okay. So is Slug Records, is that mainly just, is it mainly a label for like your personal projects, or do you bring other people on, or?
We haven't brought other people onto the label as of this chat. Okay. It's not something that we would rule out. We might very well do that. But to date, it has been my previous band, Uncle, Bipolar Explorer, and Tremisphere are the 3 projects on Slug Records. And then as to do we have another Bipolar Explorer record up our sleeve just yet, having just released a 2-hour, 22-track double album last week, we're not quite there yet. I think that, we were talking about, Forest Voices, Coastline Dreams. I'm pretty sure Stuart's going to do another Dark Outside this year. So we have actually already been thinking about, like, what do we want to do for that? And so, constantly, like you and I were talking before about field recordings, you're just always listening for stuff. And I heard like a couple of really cool things yesterday that I recorded, and we're just always doing that all the time. Got the memo function on iPhones. You've got a field recorder with you all the time in your pocket. So I think we'll probably do that. But the main focus, aside from the release and the promotion and the possible playing out of the Bipolar Explorer album in the hours left until dawn, is the new Tremisphere album, which we have a working title for, but I'm not allowed to reveal just yet. But we
okay,
come back and we'll do an exclusive with you, Lars. But that will come out this year, certainly, because we've got like 12 tracks, so we've certainly got the album.
And Tremisphere is that's just you and Sylvia, or is there anyone else?
Sylvia. That's Sylvia up front on vocals, and she has also picked up the bass, and she's playing some keyboards. So this. So there'll be more for instrumentation on this third album as well. And then I'll fill in some of the other colors and maybe throw in a backing vocal here and there. And I'm not, maybe late summer, early fall. I don't think we haven't really discussed a release date for that yet, but it's in the pipeline. It is coming.
So checking out your Slug Records website, there was Bipolar Explorer, Tremisphere, and then a third band, Uncle, I believe.
Yeah.
What is Uncle?
That's my old like pop punk rock band from the 90s.
Oh, really?
Played CBGBs like 25 times, and
oh wow,
and all of those old places, a lot of which don't exist in New York City anymore, and up and down the East Coast, up in the Metronome in Burlington, Vermont, and just lots of fun. The guy Bill Millheiser, the drummer from the Fleshtones, came to see us at Nightingales, which was this great East Village club, and we asked him to write something about us, and he was like, "Oh, I'm so honored." And he was serious, he was very earnest, and he sat down and said, "Let me think of something." And he wrote something on a bar napkin and gave it to us, and it said, more drunk and more fun than my real uncle, and that's saying a lot. And we used that quote for like 2 or 3 years because we loved the Fleshtones, obviously, and he was a buddy of ours, and he was very intent. He wanted to write just something that was right, and so that was a real fun band. You know, we were all in our 20s, and you know, we were a bit drunk on occasion, and we loved the Replacements, and it wouldn't be a far cry to say that, you know, we repeated a lot of their mistakes. And hopefully some of the good things that they did. But that was a real indie rock, you know, power punk band of that era, influenced very much by those kind of people like Husker Du and Replacements and early REM and stuff, and The Clash and Wire and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
That's what that group is. There's 2 albums, and they're both from the late 90s. And then Bipolar Explorer starts, you know, sometime later. Yeah.
So that's an inactive project at this point.
It is, yes. That's an archive.
Okay.
Archival project.
So you got new Bipolar Explorer just out last week. Do you guys do any like physical merchandise? I think I saw that you had CDs.
Yeah, we always do CDs. Yeah, we still love CDs, and there's always extras with it. This has a 20-page booklet. The Dusange one has like I think a 40-page booklet. It's got an even larger booklet. There's posters. Wow. We always do special stuff with CDs, and the CDs, if you buy them from either Bandcamp or directly from Slug Records, slugrecords.com, you get a free download of the album at the same time. So you get both things. So we very much encourage people to buy CDs. We love making them, and there's always the artwork. You know, we spend a lot of time on that. We work with some really cool people. We love working with artists, and so that's all. There's definitely merch on all that stuff. Yeah.
I hate to admit this. I don't have a CD player anywhere in my house.
Yeah.
However, I have 2 tape players for some reason.
Yeah, well, tapes are cool, man.
I'm
Forrest
starting a collection
too, but only was a limited edition, and it sold out like quickly.
Oh, of course.
But that usually our albums are too long for vinyl. And that was the only one that we've had on tape in quite a few years. And that was partly because Stewart's Dark Outside label also released it. And we did a project with them, and he, you know, did that, and that sold out quickly. But
was that Forest Voices?
It's Forest Voices Coastline Streams, yes.
Oh, I'm so mad I can't get that on tape now. All right.
Sorry.
All right. So new Bipolar Explorer album out now. Okay. New Trimosphere coming out sometime later this year.
Indeed.
Okay, we're talking later this year, probably like fall.
Thinking the fall, probably early fall, late summer. Yes.
And we can always check out the Uncle archives if we want to relive our drunken punk rock days.
Yes, remember the '90s. Yes.
Thanks so much for joining us on here.
Nice.
It was really great talking to you. Love hearing about all the new stuff that's coming out. Looking forward to seeing what Slug Records does.
Thanks,
hopefully you guys can get some other artists on there. New Bipolar Explorer album on Bandcamp. Watch out for the new Trimosphere album. That's also going to be on Bandcamp as well, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Trimosphere has its own Bandcamp as well?
It does, yeah.
I'm guessing trimosphere.bandcamp.com.
That sounds about right. I think that's exactly what it is.
Social media. You guys are on Instagram. Are you still on Twitter? I know Twitter is a cesspool now, but
it is. But yeah, both bands and Slug Records are all on Twitter, and Trimosphere and Bipolar Explorer are both on Instagram and Facebook.
Bipolar Explorer and Trimosphere both on Instagram.
Yes.
Twitter and Bipolar Explorer on Twitter and Facebook.
Yeah. And Trimosphere also on all of them. We're on all of them. Both bands.
On all of them.
Stuff. Yeah.
You weren't on MySpace, right?
But not on MySpace.
Oh.
Back in the day. I mean, that link may be done. I mean, then, you know, I think like the first album might have been on it. So if anyone can find us on MySpace, you know, drop us a free email, CD? Say hello.
No, I'm kidding.
Yes. They go, yeah, absolutely. We'll give them a CD. Yes. Of their request. Yes.
All right, guys. Yeah. Find them on MySpace and you can get a free CD. Best of luck to you. I don't know if it still works.
Yes. The challenge.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Michael. Great talking to you, and looking forward to see what you guys do in the future.
Thanks, man.